It feels like a cruel, cruel joke. Years before I met my husband, I was in such a toxic, hurtful relationship that it almost ended my life. I spent years in therapy, bettering myself, figuring out why I accepted that type of love. I stayed single for years, and once I started dating, I made sure to keep an eye out on all red flags. Heck, I even took things slowly when there was nothing but green flags. Thanks to my ex, I was familiar with love bombing. I met my husband at work event, and things just fell into place. I opened up and explained my past trauma and let him know that if we were going to date, that it would require a slow pace and patience. I won't say that he was perfect, but he was always kind, compassionate, and cared. We dated for about 5 years, engaged for 1, and married for a little over 3 years now. We recently bought our second home together. We both got promotions at work, so we sat down and talked about kids. He wanted a big family, and I only wanted 1 or 2. We agreed on 2, and started trying. It didn't take long, and here I am 6 months pregnant, still working, have swollen ankles and a back that won't stop aching. Other than that, I've been very happy and have what I thought was a supportive husband. 3 weeks ago, I found out that he was having an emotional affair, and honestly probably a physical one. When confronted with the evidence, he admitted to not being attracted to me while pregnant. I'm wrecked. I haven't gained unnecessary weight. I still take care of myself, even with the morning sickness that hasn't gone away. He's not sorry about it, but you told me that I was being overdramatic when I cried. He is staying with his family until he can find a home to rent. He doesn't want to get a divorce. He's saying after the pregnancy is over, we can go to therapy and fix things. I don't want to. I cannot physically look this man in the eye anymore without feeling disgust. I have a text from him saying that he's my only option because no man wants to date a single mom. I'll be talking to a lawyer and figuring out how to divorce him. I just wanted to vent into the void today. For now, I'm going to DoorDash some nuggets and a Frosty from Wendy's and be okay if I gain 5 pounds from it. Thanks for listening. Well reading, I suppose. Now for a few relevant comments. Someone offers to buy OP food. Thank you for the offer. I already ordered my food and am stuffed. If you'd like to head over to the free food subreddit and feed someone that's in need, they need it more than I do. In response to a now deleted comment, I don't think you deserved the amount of dislikes for asking a question. Maybe it was in the way you worded it. Who really knows? Emotional was how I decided to word it because what else do I call just talking? He was telling a very young, naive woman how hot she was, how he couldn't wait to touch her body, telling her he loved her, but then claimed they never met. He would complain to her that I wasn't fun anymore. There were obviously pictures sent back and forth due to comments, but the pictures were deleted. I asked him about all his overtime at work, and he couldn't give straight answers, hence the physical aspect of things. This man went from working maybe 40 hours a week to 60, and I may be dealing with pregnancy, but I'm not stupid. You didn't ask this, but I'm putting it here because people have brought it up, and they may read this comment. I would never expect my husband, or whatever you want to call him, to find my changing body attractive. Pregnancy is weird. I think it's beautiful, but he or others don't have to. What I did expect was him to not call me hideous to another woman, or to cheat, especially while I'm growing a life we both wanted. Why do you have to move? We bought our home together, and instead of fighting it out, we'll be selling and splitting assets. Or at least I hope that's how it will be. Plus, I just don't want to be here in this house. It's too big for just a baby, and I plus the dog he just had to have that's currently curled up in bed with me. Clarification. Have you moved out yet? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still in the shared home. He moved out to stay with his family until he finds another place. Now for the 2-day update. I'm making an edit because I'm not sure this sub will let me do an update post. I was told I'm not allowed to change the locks due to it being his home as well, and he came over last night knowing there wasn't crap I could do to prevent it. Thankfully, he only grabbed some personal belongings, threatened to take the dogs, he did not, and let me know he emptied our shared account. Part of me rolled my eyes and figured he wasn't dumb enough to do that, and the other part made me make a mental note to check it once he left. Sure enough, our account has maybe $5 in it. He did a transfer, which I'll be calling the bank about and speaking to an attorney this afternoon. Thankfully, my dad taught me, you don't fully mix finances, so my savings wasn't capable of being touched. And while it's not a lot, it's enough to pay for the fees over the next few weeks. I don't have any family left, so I think he's doing a power play to make me feel like I'm alone and need him, when in all reality it's lit a fire under my butt that I don't want or need such a garbage person in my life. Thank you to everyone that's reached out with comments, kind messages, and helpful advice. Now for the 5-day update. I wanted to do an update with how many people took the time to send messages, leave comments, and share their own personal stories, which especially helped make me not feel so alone. As mentioned in an edited post, I was not allowed to change the locks on our house due to both of our names being on it. I never feared for my safety. It was more so an annoyance. He showed up to grab some personal belongings, and I thought that what be the most that would happen. It was like he was trying to get a reaction from me. He told me he transferred funds and emptied out the account. I didn't believe him until I saw it myself. That was both of our money, so that's being dealt with currently. He showed up the day before yesterday, completely drunk, begging to talk, increasing in anger when I would just ignore him and walk away. It kept increasing, so I went to grab my bag and walk down the road to a neighbor's home, so I wasn't alone. He grabbed my arm to stop me, and when I yanked it away, he slapped me, almost a backhanded open slap. The cops were called. I didn't have a mark on my face, so it was a my word versus his. They escorted him off the property, and I'm only now assuming he's back with his parents now. He did throw a fit about the dogs and does have proof of ownership, so I'm guessing he'll be able to take them. Went to leave to go for a drive to clear my head after everything and realized 3 of my 4 tires were flat. I know it was him, but I don't have proof. Insurance won't cover it, so going to a tire shop on Friday morning. Just another drop in the bucket. As for the attorney, I've had my consult and I'm waiting for my check to come in for my actual appointment and getting the ball moving on this. There's not any family left and a few close friends are kept in the loop, but I don't want to burden them or treat them like unpaid therapists. So I think that's why I came back to Reddit. Something therapeutic about just typing it all out into the void. The baby pregnancy is okay. I've actually lost weight, and the doctor has told me to avoid stressful situations and to take things easy. I'll be calling to see if I can change the locks on the home now, and if not, I'm going to start looking for places. Now for a few comments. It's okay to burden one of your friends. Otherwise, you could stay in a women's shelter for safety. Staying with friends isn't possible. A lot are out of state, and the lawyer mentioned abandonment of assets. Plus, my job and doctor are here. I do have someone coming out and putting a few cameras up, and thankfully the neighborhood is aware and keeping an eye out. This is all short-term, of course, and the goal is to leave. There are just a ton of reasons why that can't be right this moment. Unfortunately, all of my friends are out of state and too far away from my work, doctor, and I was recommended to stay on the property, so he couldn't go after me for abandoning the assets. Thank you. While I'm trying to do what I can and stay safe, my friends are on the other side of the US. What we're doing right now is FaceTimes and phone calls. My best friend has outright said if she calls and I don't call back within 5 minutes of our setup time, she's calling the police. She also put in for some time off work and wants to come up to help me look at places and just be there in general. I'm not going to lie, I'm struggling in every way possible, and I'm scared, but I know I have a support system to lean on. My neighbor has some cameras they're letting me use until I can afford to buy some better ones. They have video, but no audio. At this point, I'm glad knowing I'll at least have something. I hope you get that money back. I really hope so too. He seriously transferred everything but $5 from the checking and the savings, which didn't even have his name on it. Wait, how? Yeah, we had a shared laptop, and I didn't think he could get into it, but I'm somehow thinking he managed with passwords or something. I filed a dispute with the bank, and they're investigating it, along with a fraud report at the police station. The bank mentioned with it being my husband, They may not approve the dispute. So that's why I went and did a report at the police station. Relationship with in-laws / can you start the divorce proceedings sooner than the birth? While I would consider it a civil relationship with the in-laws, they are his parents, and in their eyes, he can do no wrong. He's an only child, and they have a very, very close relationship. His mother apologized on his behalf, but asked me to put myself in his shoes. They're choosing to wear blinders to the whole situation. With the divorce, that's the whole attorney thing. I've done a free consultation. The attorney and I agreed with the assets and how things are going. It won't be a mediation, and it will be a long, expensive court battle knowing how spiteful he's being. They have recommended a police report on any issue to have it filed, to not block contact with him for proof of harassment, and think the best course of action is selling the property and splitting assets. I'd love to just focus on my pregnancy and myself, but due to safety reasons, I'm staying on top of legal issues. Now for the 4-day update. He broke in late last night. I was able to contact the police before I confronted him, but due to location, I knew it would be a bit. I tried walking by him to leave the house, but every time I would, he'd shove me, once hard enough to make me stumble and fall backward. The eerie part is he never once yelled through things. One of the items hit me, causing an emergency room visit requiring stitches, said the most vile things. He hated me, I should unalive myself, how useless I was, etc., yet never once raised his voice. I'm not saying that in a good way. I wish he would have yelled. It was a fight or flight instinct, and I found out mine was to freeze. I hate that for myself. He was arrested, and his mother already bailed him out. I'm staying at a hotel thanks to a work advance and looking into apartments. I won't be stepping a foot into that home we shared until my best friend is here, and even then, it will be with police being with us. Nobody can figure out what made him change almost overnight. The only thing I'm guessing is a psychotic break, but I'm not a therapist or doctor. Besides some ugly bruises and some stitches, myself and the baby are fine. My lawyer feels like this is enough to get a protection order for myself and will include the pregnancy/baby. Next time I see him will be at court. Sorry, I'm rambling, and maybe this doesn't make any sense. For now, I'm safe, can sleep good for the first time in weeks. I have the dogs. Nobody is aware of where I am besides one close person and the police. Final update, I changed my locks, figured if he'd get the law involved, I'd use pregnancy brain and being forgetful to give him a spare set. Now for a few comments. Could it be a head injury? I wish he was hit in the head. Fricker deserves it. On a serious note, no, nothing changed. No outside stress, no injuries, nothing that I'm aware of. I know it sounds unbelievable, but once the mask slipped, gloves were off. I think he thought he wanted it, to the point where he tried to believe that is what he wanted, the right thing to do. It's hard. It's so damn hard. I wish I could hate him, but I just feel sorry for him. That does not mean I will ever go back or, at this point, talk to him without the law involved. I'm choosing myself and the little one, and really, it's his loss. Can you get in baby, unaliving? I've had a couple of those comments, so don't take this reply personally, just the one I'm using. Baby unaliving is not in the books for me. I'm not anti-abortion, and I feel like it's a right women should have, and it's heartbreaking what our nation is going through when it comes to women having that stripped away. I'm 6 months pregnant. I can feel her move. I love her. She isn't a fetus to me. She is a baby. If I was 4 to 8 weeks, yeah, maybe it would have been an option, but it isn't now. I will take every step in making sure we are protected. I will love her enough for the both of us. I will not let her sperm donor have the opportunity to hurt her. Now for the 1-week update. Police met me at my home to grab some personal belongings and pretty much anything and everything else I could grab. Thanks to the user who recommended me calling the non-emergency number, it was smooth sailing. He wasn't home, I didn't have the fear of him showing up, and both officers were very kind. What I walked into, on the other hand, was not very fun. This man looked like he went on a bender. Bleach on clothes, food everywhere, personal belongings just destroyed, especially the nursery. I was able to salvage a lot of the bigger items and packed what I could. They're now in storage until I move into my place. Took pictures, and as aggravating as it was, especially with the 1 step forward, 2 steps back, I'm hopeful that they'll just be another thing used against him to prevent custody. As far as him, he has no way of contacting other than attorney or email, and it's been quiet on both ends. His parents have not reached out. I don't even know what I'd say to them if they tried, so no loss there. His girlfriend, yes, girlfriend, as I found out, has been trying to contact me via friends to let me know she's pregnant. I'm unsure if that's true or not, but that, in the very least, confirms the affair and how well he kept things hidden. I do want to clear the air. I made a post asking for helpful information on resources that could potentially help, and someone made a comment saying I was in it for a long con, and that's just untrue. I have not and will not accept any personal items/donations other than advice and maybe an internet hug. While I wish my story was made up, it is not. Maybe it's a venting board. Maybe it's just connecting with people that have been in the same situation, but it helps keep me sane. Anyway, I'll leave it at thank you all for listening and checking up on me. I'm safe. I'm good. Pregnancy is the only thing kicking my butt, and I'll make sure to make a post in a few months letting y'all know she's here and that we made it. Bye for now. Now for a comment on this post. Oh, trust me, I'm having bad days with it, especially emotionally. I'm sure the hormones aren't helping. I've debated if I turned a blind eye and if there really weren't any red flags. I've had moments where I've missed him because it's not just a switch. We loved each other, or at least I loved him. This is a person I planned a future and had a past with. It's really just an emotional roller coaster, and that's okay. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to handle all of this, but I'm doing my best. Now, for a comment on the post she deleted. I'm not asking for money, and I'm sorry if it came across that way. I can provide proof and anything else. I've had multiple people reach out and ask if they could help, and I've always turned it down. The only thing I'm asking is for someone to point me in the way of an organization that I may not know of. If that's coming across as that way, though, I can and will delete my post. It wasn't my intention. Now for the 1-week update. I've read every single message and the majority of the comments. Thank you for sharing your experiences, your advice, your love. More than a few have offered baby items, groceries, and gift cards. I cannot in goodwill accept any of those. But if you have items laying around, please consider donating them to a charity that helps homeless parents. One thing that stuck out is someone asked how I could feel sorry for him. I guess I'm an empathetic person, to the point where it could be a flaw. I wish if he was so unhappy, he would have just told me. We could have fixed it before it became violent, and if it wasn't fixable, we could have both been amazing parents. His girlfriend that reached out wrote an email in which was forwarded to me. She's saying she's pregnant, and for her sake, I hope she's not. She's accusing me of ruining a good man's reputation. She called the injuries self-inflicted and how they want a paternity test. My personal favorite was, if my baby is actually his, she hopes her baby can grow up with her and have a sister. Little does she know I will go to hell and back to make sure that man does not know anything about my daughter. As for him, I've seen him once while leaving the grocery store. Outside me was calm, cool, collected, acted like he was a stranger I wouldn't give a second look at. On the inside, I said, "Oh shoot," about 500 times and cried in the car. Money situation is fixed, work bonus and promotion. I've bought a new and better living room suite and having a painting party at the end of the month. You're all invited, Bado. Still good, still safe, slowly learning to love my new normal. If you're in a similar situation or in a hurtful relationship, man or woman, reach out. You're not alone. You don't need to be brave, I'm certainly not. You just need that "I can't do this anymore" to light that fire. Now for a few important comments. Commenter: I'm a petty Betty and would have posted the GF's text about ruining a good man's reputation right next to all the destruction of the house. Let everyone see what a good man he is. Then OP replied, petty me wanted to show her the texts, the pictures, everything. I'm gonna let him show her himself, because until he does, I'll just be that vindictive lying ex. I was perfect to that man. I poured endless love into our marriage. I spoiled him. I was a best friend, a therapist, and probably his biggest hype man. And if he can leave that, he can leave anything. There's no bad issues. I want to see her eat, just not at my table type of thing. But I'm treating her just like I do him, like they're nothing but a stranger to me. He doesn't have to go on the birth certificate. And really, after the divorce and court dates, I don't think I'll allow either of them to be a second thought in my head. Now, for the 6-month update. Hi, it's been a while since I've posted. Last time I posted, I had swollen ankles, waddled, thought every little cramp was a contraction, and felt like life was falling apart. I want to thank everyone who reached out even months after the fact just to check in on a stranger. My daughter is here. For privacy, I'm going to leave out her daub, but she was 6 pounds, 2 ounces, and the most beautiful head of hair I've seen. She's now got the hairstyle of Danny DeVito. My original posts are still up, in case anyone is looking at this with puzzlement. But to say things have been rough would be an understatement. He showed up to the hospital. Thankfully, everyone was aware, and hospital staff handled it properly and perfectly, and I was able to focus on labor and delivery. Unfortunately, the stress of that alone took an already hectic moment in time and amped it up, but things could have been so much worse, and I'm highly thankful they were not. Right now, I've got about 10 different CPS calls. They've come to my house on 4 occasions. His family and him have filed for an emergency custody hearing, and due to leaving the state with my daughter, that did give him a foot in the door. It seems the protective order isn't really helping in that matter. I am still on maternity leave, so thankfully my focus has fully been on my daughter and collecting all the evidence to make sure he doesn't get any custody other than possibly supervised visits for an hour. My main concern is if he doesn't get any custody, that his parents may do the grandparent route. I wish it was an update to say I'm kicking motherhood's butt and taking names, but most of the time I feel like a burnt-out blob. I am in therapy, and the doctors are keeping an eye on postpartum depression, yet my doctor thinks a giant hemorrhoid, X, is the cause instead. Don't have an update on the girlfriend of his, have kept the dogs. I think they love the little one just as much as I do. I'm excited and anxious to see where the next chapter of life will take me. Now for a few important comments. Don't worry about grandparents' rights. Then OP replied, "Thank you for this. The rational side of my brain knows that they have a slim to none chance of getting anywhere, yet the exhausted, overstimulated hormones all over the place keep going. What if? So anytime that fear creeps back in, I'll come back to your comment and read it a few times." Now for a post on her own page. Baby is here. Well, honestly, she's been here for a bit, but still a noob at life. She was born with a head full of black hair, 6 pounds, 2 ounces, and was alert from the very start. I made an update on True of my chest, but making a small one here just in case it gets taken down. CPS has been called numerous times and came out for a few visits. Everything from I was living in filth to I was leaving the baby home alone to that I was addicted to drugs has been said and investigated and proved wrong. I did leave the state, and that got his foot in the door for an emergency custody battle, which will be coming up soon. The protective order was a joke and has been unhelpful. The man showed up to the hospital while I was in labor, but thankfully the hospital staff handled it perfectly. The cops not so much, but didn't expect it. I think his parents are the biggest push in the custody thing, but I don't think he'll get granted more than a few supervised visits. My main concern is if that happens, his grandparents going after grandparent rights. To protect their reputation, it's highly likely they will. Unfortunately, I don't have an update on his girlfriend, but I did keep the dogs, aka the gruesome twosome, and I think they love the little one just as much as I do. Thank you all for still caring and messaging, checking in months later. It means more than I can say. Now for a few important comments. Commenter: how did he find out you were in labor so he could show up at the hospital? Do you have a mole feeding him info? I'm assuming so, yes, most likely a coworker, or at least that is my best guess. I think they probably tried to file for emergency custody claiming that she was kidnapping the baby by moving out of state. Exactly what happened. They said kidnappings, fleeing the state. From what I understand from my lawyer, that won't hold, but I am required to do a paternity test since he's not on her birth certificate. Why he gets this chance, I have no clue. It's exhausting. and I think it's a control scare tactic to keep his family happy. Someone mentioned an AirTag. I called a garage, explained the situation. They're going to have me drop it off and go over it with a fine-tooth comb. So if the person that mentioned that is reading this, a big, big thank you. As for the coworkers, someone leaking information, I've stayed silent ever since. Finally, I cannot get them in trouble with false accusations with CPS because they're making anonymous reports. I know it's them. My lawyer knows it's them. Heck, at this point, the caseworkers probably know it's them, but legally it's anonymous, and they'll just decline saying reporting anything. Commenter, thank you so much. I have not kept the pictures personally, but my lawyer has them. Police documents, the texts, the voicemails. I couldn't physically keep them in my home because I would look at them over and over again, trying to figure out what I missed, where it went wrong, what I could have done to prevent it. It made my mental health spiral. Neither one of us, lawyer and I, believe that he has a chance when it comes to custody, but neither one of us thought he'd get his foot in the door as far as he has either. Right now, it's focusing on the baby, the dogs, and keeping my physical mental health in a good place. So thankful for Reddit and everyone that checks in because it's been therapeutic in a way. Now for the next post. In all reality, I need some dad advice. Life has been hectic, crazy, scary, defeating. I'm still going and keeping my head up because I just had a baby and won't let her down. A kind Redditor sent me over here because I'm looking at, most importantly, the safest but also the easiest way to sell things online. Every place seems to have its downfall. eBay seems like the best, but I'm unsure. Craigslist seems simple, fast, easy, but scammers and the meeting someone online. Where's the best place to meet? Is cash best? Should I take a friend? Makes me question my sanity. A gaming store seems hopeful and the safest, but I've also heard they'll give you bottom dollar for anything you can bring in. This is jumbled and a mess, but if you see this and have any kind helpful so desperately needed dad advice, I need it. A dad joke wouldn't hurt either. Am I the idiot for calling out my boss for repeatedly nominating me for a gay award when I'm not gay? My boss keeps nominating me for a gay professional award outside of our organization. Repeatedly, even though I am not gay. I have expressed verbally that I am not gay, and even if I were, I wouldn't want to be recognized for my intimacy preferences that would be a part of who I just am. Is there something I can legally do about this? It's weird and frankly embarrassing, but I'm not certain it's intimacy harassment or a legal issue. I've had multiple direct conversations with my boss that consist of something like, I'm not comfortable being nominated for these awards. Can you please knock it off? Thanks in advance. Now for a few important comments. Hats and top coats. And what did your boss say in response? Has your boss shared any motivation for doing this? OP. The first time I addressed this was utter bewilderment and shock. I genuinely believe this person with the best of intentions initially nominated me based on an erroneous assumption that I am gay. My boss is very involved in inclusion-esque statements and events, so I think this was originally considered to be a thoughtful thing to do, certainly with zero ill will or intent. This is where it gets more into assumptions and feelings, but subsequent requests have been met with that, "Oh, you're taking this too seriously," sort of vibe, or a wink and a nod, as if I am actually gay and it's some secret now between us. It just feels a bit like my boss was embarrassed with my earlier correction that I'm not gay and has since tried to downplay it by nominating me again. OP responds to the comment that this is sex-based harassment. Thank you very much for your answer and for taking it seriously. As I understand it from your suggestion, my next step will be to electronically communicate that this is unwelcome and needs to stop, so it's recorded, and preserve the communications, continue to document, then escalate if needed. I otherwise really like my job and company, so I'm trying to navigate this as carefully as possible. That's the other crazy part about this. The organization who lets me know I've been nominated publicly broadcasts this information, which seems horrifying if you've chosen not to be out yet. It's such a weird thing that I never dreamed I'd have to deal with. Thank you again. It's very much appreciated. OP when told to contact the organization before making a life-destroying public announcement. Thanks for raising this. I fully believe the NICE award folks have the best of intentions, but the potential ramifications the way they are proceeding now could be devastating. Consider it done. OP in a deleted comment describing their boss. My boss is very involved in inclusion-esque statements and events, so I think this was originally considered to be a thoughtful thing to do, certainly with zero ill will or intent. This is where it gets more into assumptions and feelings. Put subsequent requests have been met with that, "Oh, you're taking this too seriously" sort of vibe, or a wink and a nod, as if I am actually gay and it's some secret now between us. It just feels a bit like my boss was embarrassed with my earlier correction that I'm not gay and has since tried to downplay it by nominating me again. I posted this a bit below. This is only my speculation on the matter. As for why I was nominated, I really like flannel and tend to talk about my weekend hauls from Home Depot. I'll be the first to admit I have some stereotypically male qualities, particularly as a woman in a male-dominated industry. But my sexuality has never been brought up beyond the whole, "I'm actually not this thing you're nominating me for. Can you freaking not?" Now for the 2-week update. I decided to address this one final time in person, as my company really doesn't have an intimacy harassment policy beyond "don't do that." I met with the Michael Scott-esque boss and with another leader who is in a legal operations role within our organization. I used pointed phrases that were brought up by legal advice posters, like sex-based harassment. A poster had suggested that this seemed like a misguided and inappropriate way of helping me to come out. In the course of our conversation, it became clear that this is exactly what was happening, and I in turn made it clear that it wasn't really anyone's business to help me with things outside of my role at work. I also stated this is the last time we would have this conversation without escalating it to the New York State Human Rights/Office of Intimacy Harassment. Michael Scott was profusely apologetic, and the other witness was horrified this was happening. Later, my CEO called to let me know it was appalling, would never happen again, and to ask if I needed a few days off. He also thanked me for bringing the issue up and promised change, whatever that means. I feel like everyone took it seriously, and the best possible outcome so far is it didn't turn into a legal issue, though I realize that is not quite as high drama or exciting. I also contacted the organization, who continued to publicly notify people of their awards and received an oddly clipped and rude email in return. I made it clear this is not okay and the way they operate could cause unintentional but irreparable harm. Thank you to everyone who provided advice and also took the issue seriously. There were times I felt like I was not being able to take a joke, but you guys reassured me that this wasn't okay and also how to fix it. Y'all rock. Thanks. Now for a few comments. Cole1114. Man, I really want to read that email with identifying info clipped out, of course. OP, me. Hi there. I've received a few of these emails and want to make it clear that while I am fully on board with your mission, I am not actually gay myself. I worry a bit about those who may have told a select few people at their own organizations how they identify and are nominated with good intentions, and then essentially outed publicly by the nomination and award-winning process. This could potentially be a huge issue if someone has not chosen to be out. Response: someone at your work nominated you. Sent from my iPhone. I'm far more peeved at the MBD response than I am over anything else. I'm sure it's a low-effort way of denying responsibility, but so frustrating. Camp W. I really hope OP still took the gaycation that the CEO offered, even if he isn't gay. LOL. I did not. I didn't want to turn it into any more of a thing than it already was. I also didn't want to act traumatized when I really wasn't, just annoyed and wanted it to stop. It doesn't matter much for context, but I am a she. Am I the idiot for changing the locks after my husband poisoned my plants and hid my daughter's toys? I have many, many houseplants, and even some that were quite expensive and were gifts from my sister. Within the last 6 months, at least a third of my plants have died. I have had houseplants my whole life due to my late mother's own love of houseplants, and I know a lot about plants. The death of the plants didn't seem related to lack of light, or inconsistent watering, or lack of nutrients, or even root rot. They just died very suddenly. I tried to not let it upset me too much because plants die, and it was not any of the expensive ones, until now. My sister gave me a 5-leaf Monstera albo rooted plant for my birthday 2 months ago. It was beautiful. This morning, I was crying pretty hard about it as I unpotted it and took a look at the roots, and I was looking hard at this plant and roots to see if its death was pest-related. And that's when I noticed a smell. I sniffed my potting mix and I smelled bleach. The only other adult person in my home with unlimited and unobserved access to my plants is my husband. I wasn't able to talk to him for several hours, but when I could speak to him, I very calmly but very directly asked if he had done something to my plants. He denied it at first. I said I smelled bleach in the potting mix of the albo my sister had gotten me, and that the only person that could have put it there was him, and he caved. He said he was putting small amounts of bleach into the fertilizer water jugs I prepare. I started crying. I asked him why. Why would you do this? You know I love these plants. Why would you destroy them? He didn't really answer, nor did he really apologize. The trust I had in him is absolutely gone. I think maybe counseling can help us, but he is the one that did this, but I'm the one that would have to set up the counseling. The angry part of me just wants to be done with the relationship. I know that might seem overboard as we are married and share a child, but I feel now that I'm not safe around my husband. Edit. I thank everyone for giving advice. The townhome we live in is mine and my sister's, our inheritance from my mother. My husband has an office, den, gaming room that is his personal space, and there are no plants there. There are also no plants in the kitchen. I'm not a plant hoarder. Like he has a room for himself, I also have a sunroom, and that is where the concentration of plants live. He has no reason to go in there. It's not access to our backyard or anything. I saw some people saying maybe he's sick of bugs, but I do not have a fungus gnat problem. I did see one person ask, why did I not smell the bleach when I was watering? And I can only say my nose wasn't all up in there, maybe. I also usually use a natural systemic in my fertilizer water called SNS 209 that smells heavily of rosemary, but I ran out last month and haven't replaced yet. After our convo yesterday, I needed space. I spent the night in my daughter's room on a trundle bed. I am going to text my husband today. He usually communicates easier and opens up more via text rather than face-to-face. I'm going to ask for a reason and I'll see what he says. Edit 2. Sorry, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to update on a separate post. My husband won't be welcome in my home anymore, and I need to find a lawyer ASAP on Monday. I did text him, and he admitted again to putting bleach in my fertilizer water. He says it wasn't every jug I ever made, so that explains why it wasn't all my plants dying, but randomly over the past 6 months. His exact words were that I deserved to be knocked down a peg. After the text communication, I went home from work early and I entered his office. I usually respect his space absolutely. I don't even go in there to grab dirty dishes. I don't know what I was looking for, but the hundreds of comments saying he was working up to something worse or already was doing something else really worried me. I went in there and I found a drawer full of my daughter's dolls and dollhouse furniture and little toys. I bought her that dollhouse for her 4th birthday last year, and she has loved it. She takes such good care of her toys, but something always ends up missing, and it's always my husband who notices. He lectures her about keeping track of her things and how he won't let her play with her dollhouse if she keeps losing things. He keeps going till she starts to sob. When I hear this going on, I always step in and ask him to go take a break. I assumed he was losing his cool. I've told him this is not how to deal with this with a kid, and he says he just wants her to grow up responsible. I now see it was some weird scheme or setup or something. He would steal the stuff and stash it away and point out it was gone to berate our daughter till she cried. My sister and her husband's dad came over this afternoon, and they've changed the locks. I've texted him to tell him he isn't coming back and that he can come on Saturday morning to grab his essential things, but that my bro-in-law and another man would be there to watch. Sorry if this is unclear, if things seem missing. This Reddit post isn't super my priority. I will probs not be updating again. Thank you to everyone worried about my safety. Now for a few important comments. First commenter, I don't know your partner. Hopefully you do, but proceed with great caution. Another commenter, that's disturbing. I can't think of a single reason to unalive your plants that isn't creepy, controlling, or otherwise unhealthy. It feels like he resented the time or attention you gave the plants, maybe? I don't think I'd feel safe around him either, or having your child around him. Is there somewhere safe you could go for a while you try to work out if you want to salvage the relationship? Now for the 6-month update. I've recently got some messages asking for me to update and let the internet know I'm safe. My daughter and I are both safe, without getting into too much detail, but to satiate the curious. My husband, the man I thought I knew, has changed so much that I think of it like him ripping off a mask. He's sworn at me, screamed at me, and pushed me to the ground twice and kicked me in the face. Our entire marriage, I was never ever afraid of physical violence from this man. The police have been involved. Divorce is still in progress. After an initial period of intense anger, my husband seemingly stopped caring at all, though. He said he doesn't want any custody and he wants to give up his parental rights of our daughter. He doesn't see her. In the last month, I have heard he actually has a new girlfriend. His parents still talk to me. I was on good terms with his mom. Also, a friend of my husband's, who has been friends with him since college, reached out to me to ask what is going on. We texted. He says my husband has ghosted that entire group of friends he still had after someone in the group called him out for some sort of asshole-ish behavior. My daughter is bright and wonderful. There's been such a profound change to her behavior since her dad's been gone. She's happy and silly and joyful. I guess there's been a change in both her and my behavior. I think of it like the frog in the boiling pot. I was sitting there boiling to my death and never realized. We lived in a house of walking on eggshells. If husband was upset, he would infect the house with hostility. I'm not sure I can describe it. I was constantly on guard and never able to relax. I was not afraid of physical violence, though, so I don't want to describe it as something more serious than it was. Thank you all for making me realize I was in that boiling pot. This sub says I need to pose a question to post. What can I do for my daughter to let her know she's safe and loved always? I know I failed her whenever I heard her dad yelling at her about the dollhouse. I can say I tried to step in at all times when I heard it going on, but that doesn't seem enough. I feel so guilty. She is on a waiting list for therapy. Our structure is still the same. She looks like she's thriving, but I just don't know. Now for a few important comments. First commenter, Ally2502. Thank you for updating. I am so glad you are out of that marriage. I am so glad your daughter is thriving. It's better to be raised by a single, happy, wonderful mom than having a miserable POS of a father in her life. I know this whole thing is excruciatingly difficult, but you are doing great. Keep pushing forward, one day at a time, and maybe consider therapy. And from one plant lover to another, may you rebuild your green oasis soon.